Bonjour et bienvenue. On est ici dans la paroisse Vermilion. We're here at Renee Ross Middle School in Kaplan in Western Vermilion Parish. And we're about to speak with Madeline DeHart, who is the supervisor for fine arts and foreign languages, world languages at Vermilion Parish School System.
That's right.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
How's it going?
It's going.
That's great. So where did you grow up? Are you from Vermilion or
Right down the road.
in
Abbeville.
Kaplan? Oh, Abbeville. Okay,
But
cool.
it's very south Abbeville, so it's very close to Kaplan.
Got it. Okay, great. And so then you went to college and master's music, focusing on music.
Yeah.
And was that here in Louisiana?
Yes, classical music education.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So not initially interested in the Louisiana Cajun music.
I always
side of
longed
it.
for it, but I never
Yeah.
had an opportunity to experience or
Right.
experiment with. I mean, I've just only looked at the instruments from afar.
Did you understand that Vermilion was a unique place compared to the rest of the United States? Or?
Not at all.
Okay.
Like most children, this is my understanding of French music, French speaking was all for old people. Because every time I go to any festival and a French group was playing or there were French people dancing, and the majority of the people involved in it were old to me. And now I'm kind of old. And so now I start to appreciate those things.
Right. And then in terms of French, did you have any French education growing up?
Yes,
Or? Okay.
I was the first in line to take French in high school, and I ended up going to Raleigh for French.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
When did you start getting involved in your professional life with French immersion, world languages, Cajun music? Was it first with French immersion and then Lâche Pas came?
It had always been a long, deep desire in my heart to share our French culture with everyone, because as the supervisor over music and the arts, I'm in the perfect position to share other opportunities for music. It doesn't just have to be classical music education. And then once we implemented French immersion in Vermilion Parish back in 2019, it gave me the perfect open door to fuse those two things together, because I didn't want just to have one little group of students in French immersion learning French when the entire population of the school could have benefited from our French culture. So I created different opportunities for the students to learn about their French culture. So every third grader in the parish engages in a fado where they do waltz, two-step, line dances associated with all the French music. And we also started a fiddle club for 4th and 5th graders so that they could start immersing themselves in French opportunities even though they weren't in French immersion.
Well, I think that's really interesting, the idea of like how can we reach those kids too, so that it's in there somewhere. Maybe they're not thinking fully in French like the French immersion kids,
right.
but they feel that it's part of them.
Yeah.
And so can you tell us, how did you, running schools is hard, working in a school district is hard, and so can you tell us about those initial efforts, how you proposed them? Would you just say, we're doing this, and then convince your higher ups, or how did that go?
Yes, so you always initiate any project ideas with the principal. And the principal at LeBlanc Elementary at the time was very open to any project that was associated with a Francophone environment. So she was very open for us to start a little fiddle club after school. And then here in Renee Ross, we started a guitar club, which kind of led to the future where if you take a fiddle club and you take a guitar club and you put those two together and eventually you bring that accordion in, well, you have a jam session. So those things just kind of fell together. When I say stars aligned, stars aligned. And then we had an opportunity to apply for a very large amount of money where we could actually take that tradition of playing music that no one really reads, and we had the opportunity to convert that oral tradition onto paper in a musical notation that just about anybody can read. And once you do that, you can reach the masses. And since I have the opportunity to reach students in a school system of maybe 6,000 students, that means we have more opportunities to get more students involved.
Right, right. How did y'all hear about the grant? What year was it? And then who were you? Were you already looped in with Jane at that point, or How did that go step by
I,
step?
I
Kinda?
knew Jane prior, but I didn't know how involved she was with this genre. But I did learn 5 days before this grant was due that we had an opportunity to apply for it. And I learned that from Michelle Bro at the State Department.
Right.
And she shared that with me. And I said, you know what? Everything is in here. We've done it already. All we need to do is put it on paper. The conceptualization is there, and all we have to do is just make it make sense to those people who read through these grants and decide who gets funded. So I tried to make that make sense to those people, and lo and behold, it worked.
Wow. One thing that's unique is like we were talking about with Jane is that it's music, but it's not just music, it's also culture, language,
Yeah.
folklore, art. And so what was the process like for identifying the team members and developing the curriculum?
With music driving the course and other modalities supplementing the course, we kind of developed an idea of covering all the modalities, which are 7 modalities. We have music, folk art, dance, history, language, customs and traditions, and of course, cuisine.
Got it.
So those things all to come together to kind of represent our culture, and then using Jane's expertise in probably all 7 of these modalities. She's just somebody I really leaned on for information and for some unique guidance and insight into knowing how to bring this to the public.
Right. And then once y'all had the curriculum together and kind of those modalities, how did y'all decide to go ahead with the kind of after school elective model as a format?
The grant stipulated that it needed to be something very innovative.
Got it.
And I thought, what's more innovative than extending your instructional day and actually having a student stay in school 1 hour later than they would originally for a grade, for an elective that counts as a Carnegie unit for high school. A lot of people caught on to that and thought it was a great idea, and so it was not a problem getting kids involved and enrolled in the program.
So that's interesting. Kids wanted to stay
An
late
extra hour. It
at
just
school.
blew my mind, because when you have somebody like Jason Harrington on your morning announcements, playing the fiddle and saying, "Hey y'all come visit me and join me with this class." 20 students, 30 students sign up immediately.
Right, right, definitely. And so in terms of the motivations and the impact, obviously it makes sense to a lot of us in Louisiana. We're all very attached to our culture. But something you talk about a lot is the identity building side of it. So can you talk to us about that? Why is that an important part
Well,
of the
if
program?
you know a middle school student, that is the age level that these students are trying to figure out who they are in this world. And when they join this class, they come to life because the questions we ask, the discussions we have, all of the interactions that these students have are from within. They feel all of what we're covering in the class. It's not something like math and science that's thrown down into your brain. Let's download this into your brain. This is something that comes from within. And when they discover, oh, my mama speaks French, or my great-grandfather was an accordion maker, or when a student says, Mom, I want to go back to school after my dental appointment just so I can attend Lâche Pas, that speaks volumes. And these kids are discovering more about themselves than they ever knew. And that gives them great pride in who they are. And that's a big goal of mine, is to make sure that these middle school students have some identity. And it makes them prouder of who they are.
Definitely. And I think, that's one of the challenges of how do you get kids and communities involved in education and committed to it, not just like checking off the boxes, but really all in. And so I feel like we see that with the kids, but then also, we've seen that with the parents and the communities. And so can you talk about that side of how you've been able to not only connect the kids to their roots and their identity, but also bring in the community into the classroom?
Well, there's multiple ways. I have to tell you that sometimes parents may force their children to enroll in this at first because they know the value.
Right.
And then the student realizes, oh yeah, this is where I want to be. It makes me who I am. But then when you bring professional musicians, culture bearers who know their art, and you bring them into the class, it helps the student to know, oh, there's plenty of other people out there who do this. And when you have somebody like Jordan Thibodeau come in and tell you, do you realize how much the world values this little tiny place on the earth? And they're just engaged in everything those visitors have to say. And then when they realize the value in that, and they do have something very special, and that the entire world comes to visit this place on earth as opposed to any other because it's that special. And then they realize it's because of stuff I do on a daily basis. And so they start to realize it's a special thing, and that they're special.
It valorizes it for sure. In terms of like looking to the future for the kids, what do you think about the economic argument for the program? Do you hope that it can create opportunities for them in the future as, cultural workers or musicians?
That's the only thing I think that would hold us back. We've actually surveyed multiple school systems across the state, and you'd be surprised to know all of them that would love to implement this, but they say, how do we do it? But the model is there. The teaching materials are there. It's just a matter of getting the teacher trained and getting that equipment in the hands of those students.
Right.
Very
Definitely.
doable.
And do you think at the same time, in addition to expanding geographically, there's a potential for like expanding across time, adding additional years?
Ultimately, it's my goal
Right.
to have them become lifelong musicians. But if they don't choose to go that direction, at least they will be lifelong audience members.
Right.
So it cultivates a future for our culture, and possibly for tourism and economy in the future, because we're going to bring these professional musicians into our classrooms, and those people are going to get more jobs out of this.
Right, definitely. I mean, that's what it's like you said, people come from all around the world to Louisiana specifically because we have this culture. And so it's important that we have people of all generations, but especially for the kids, like as older generations retire, we need to have people that can, hold down the fort and represent that culture so that
right.
people keep coming here. Looking at that impact, right now, Lâche Pas is in three middle schools
That's
in
right.
Vermilion. And can you talk a little bit about what the reactions have been?
There's so much support for Lâche Pas that we've had a lot of interest in other parts of the parish to bring Lâche Pas to the north part of the parish and to the more rural parts of the parish. And those rural parts are probably the most French-speaking parts. The population at each of those schools is kind of restricting our opportunity to be there on a regular basis, but there's potential to move this from just 3 of our middle schools to all 6 middle schools in Vermilion Parish, because the interest is there and the school board interest is there. So in the very near future, there's a very good possibility that our school board will be implementing 2 salaried positions to cover Lâche Pas only. So we could have a teacher of Lâche Pas in 2 or 3 of our schools, and another position for Lâche Pas that could be in the other 3 schools.
Right. It's just about figuring out how to make it work.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting what you were talking about earlier. It might be a way to do like a pilot is some of the initial activities you had done here in Vermilion with like the fado-dos or
Yep.
the smaller kind of workshops, and then see how you can grow that into a full class like Lâche Pas is. But that's so exciting about here in Vermilion, because I feel like that's what's has the potential, is like you're saying, is reaching the masses, so to speak. It's like we love French immersion, and then there's a lot of other cool programs, but sometimes they the numbers remain small. And so already 3 schools is how many kids are at the 3 middle school? How many kids
We
are?
probably have 60 enrolled.
Okay, cool. And then it's going to continue
To grow.
each year.
Yep.
Yeah, to grow. So that's pretty awesome. And so like I think that's one thing. I think we often say like our culture is kind of our birthright here in
Yes.
Louisiana,
Yes.
but we have to put our money where our mouth is with that.
Amen.
So amen. Petit à petit. And so then I guess kind of my last question is, do you have any specific moments or memories that you could share with us from the classroom, or a grandma talking to their grandchild? Or
The highlight of my job that I feel is the most impactful for students is when they can say that they had a gig with somebody like Gino Delafosse. We played, we opened for Gino, or we opened for Steve Riley, or we played along with some famous musician that they were in awe of. And so that gives me great fulfillment in knowing that I did that. I didn't do
Right.
that. I did it for them, but that I was able to facilitate
That's
that.
the
And it's the
impact.
best feeling. That's the best feeling for me career-wise. Yeah.
Right.
And I have to say one more thing. History's not boring when it's your own.
Mm.
I find kids come to life in this class.
Right.
Yeah.
It's working, petit à petit, but yeah, it's definitely working. If someone watches this and they are interested in exploring Lâche Pas, what do you recommend? Should they go to the website, reach out to
Yes,
you?
I would say lâchepas.org. They can also find us on Facebook for Lâche Pas Vermilion, or even on Instagram, Lâche Pas Louisiane.
Even in North Louisiana, coming
That's correct.
soon, you know?
That's correct.
Toute la Louisiane. So, well, thank you so much, Madeline. This was really fun.
Thank you.
Merci
Thank you.
beaucoup. And we're excited to come back and go to another middle school in Vermilion, and then maybe even interview you, hopefully, in a neighboring parish when they start Lâche Pas, là-bas aussi. Donc, merci beaucoup et à la prochaine. À bientôt.
Prochaine.